Hey, everybody, we're back again today. I'm here with Sam St. John. We did a White Album video about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. Worst to best, all 30 tunes. And today we decided to go chronologically. We're going to start the beginning of the Beatles discography and take on Please Please Me and do the albums thereafter. So, Sam, welcome to the show. This should be fun.
Thanks, Rich.
Always great to get together, young Beatle fan, old Beatle fan. So good stuff here. Please Please Me, of course, the first UK release, 1963. 8 Lennon and McCartney tunes, 6 covers, a lot of short 2-minute, 30-second songs. And we're going to rank them in our preferential order, worst to best. So you were going to kick it off, number 14.
Well, thanks again, Rich. I'm looking forward to finishing up the series with you.
Gonna be good. Nice journey as we go through the Beatles.
And I'll say that prepping for these videos, the past 2 weeks, I've been going through the Beatles discography in order, and that's including like the box sets. I'm listening to all of the additional pieces. So it's been kind of fun. It's always fun to revisit the whole discography. So this has been a neat experience. But let me jump in. Again, 14 songs. The first one on here, surprisingly, is a Lennon McCartney song. It's not a cover. It's the song "Ask Me Why," and I think probably the reason that "Ask Me Why" is number 14 is I think it's one of those songs that I never really remember. It's not one that I hum. And actually, even like doing this list, I kind of had to like go back because off the title of it, I was thinking like, remind me how that goes again. So I had to go back and listen to it and look up the lyrics. I'm like, oh yeah. So nothing really stands out about it. It's on the first half of the album. So I mean, it's not like it's a deep, filler on the second half of the album, but it's just one that's never stuck out. It's got some good harmonies. And again, I love all these songs. I don't hate these songs, but yeah, that's the one that just hits the bottom for me.
Yeah, you described it well. There's nothing really extraordinary about it, and it's near the bottom of my list as well. I don't quite have it at the bottom. My number 14 is "Boys," the Ringo led vocal here. I remember the Shirelles had a hit with it, a semi-hit on a B-side of "Will You Love Me Tomorrow." Kind of a weird song for its time. A guy singing about boys. Let me talk about boys. Yeah, boys. I mean, today it would work in the context of the way the lifestyles are, but back then, I don't know, the shoe bop and stuff. It just doesn't work for me as a song, a Beatles song. So I'm going to put it at the bottom. Sorry, Ringo.
Sorry, Ringo. He's still killing it live. He still does it.
I know he does it. I know it's a big thing for him, and he does it well. I don't hate the song, but you got to rank it somewhere, and it's in the cellar for me.
Yeah, it's a little further up for me. But my number 13 is "Baby It's You."
Wow.
One of the ballads on the album. It's not a Lennon McCartney track. It does have a co-writing credit by Burt Bacharach. And it has, that kind of like the sha la 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 la.
Yeah.
It's kind of of the time. And then they kind of have like that cheat.
Yeah.
I think it's charming.
I like it.
It's a good little it's a good little ballad. Lennon does a really good job on it vocally. And again, it's just one of those that I don't ever reach out for. So that's my number 13.
Very good. My number 13 is "A Taste of Honey." This is from a stage play of the same name. It's just not top shelf material for me. It's an average cover song. I remember when Herb Alpert did the instrumental in the mid 60s. I enjoyed that much better without the vocals, just the horns and stuff, and kind of more up tempo with the Herb version. I mean, this is okay. Paul's vocals are decent, but it's not one that, that I would play. I would probably skip over it when I was doing the album. It's not a classic Beatles tune for me.
It's definitely a Herb Alpert song these days. I mean, it definitely belongs to him.
Yes.
Yeah. My number 12, again, it's another cover. It's going to be the song "Anna, Go to Him." And Another good vocal by John. You
Yeah.
can tell John was kind of in a style at this point. Again, this is, it's the first album, the first UK album, and I think they said that when they recorded this album that it was essentially their Cavern Club set. It was one of their Cavern Club sets, and they recorded it all in one day. So they're throwing in their own songs, but they have to please the crowd, and I'm sure the girls love this song, especially the ones named Anna. The background vocals are kind of weird, where they kind of go Anna. It's just
Yeah.
it's kind of sour. I'm not big on it, but again, it's another cover that it's not my top tier of Beatles covers.
Right. My number 12 was the one you had earlier, Ask Me Why, for pretty much exactly the same reasons that you mentioned. I had to go back and remember, because it's not apparent in the title. It doesn't stick in my head. Like, where's Ask Me Why? Where's Ask Me? It's not a repetitive course. There's nothing extraordinary about it. It's definitely filler in my book. Pretty weak Beatles song. I don't know. I really don't have much to add to it. It's just
Right.
sitting at number 12. It couldn't go any higher. I almost put it at 11, but I almost put it at 13 rather.
Yeah, definitely the number 14 through number 11 to me, they interchange in terms of which is at the bottom, but
Right.
My number 11 is the song There's a Place, which is a Lennon McCartney song. I think probably the reason I don't put the song as high is I really don't like Lennon's harmony on it. It's like he's got like this weird vibrato in his voice. He's like, where I can go. It's like it holds right there. It's almost like he's putting on an accent. Like an even like further, like almost like a Cockney accent kind of thing. Again, it's not one that I reach for. And this isn't one of my top Beatles albums either.
No.
Just simply because of the number of covers and the early tracks that the Beatles do in terms of the ones that they've written are not, they're not classics, with the exception of a couple that they wrote. But the rest of them were kind of just early filler, like you mentioned earlier. So my number 11 is There's a Place.
Yeah, There's a Place I have quite a bit higher because it's a song that I kind of grew up with. It was on that American version of Introducing the Beatles, which was the first album I ever had, and it was on there, and I really enjoyed that. But that's for further on. My number 11 is Chains, the Carole King, Jerry Goffin written song, originally done by the Cookies, a girl group. George is on lead vocal here. I like it, but I prefer the Cookies version. To me, it works better with a female lead. My baby's got me locked up in chains, and they ain't the kind. It's just a girly kind of song for me. So I hate to break it down into gender, but I am anyway.
Yeah. That one's much higher for me.
Yeah, I like this. I like the way it's sung, but I always go back. I always compare it to the original.
Right.
I have a tendency to do that with covers.
Sure. And I guess for me, a lot of these covers, I found out through the Beatles. I mean, even some of their later albums, like Roll Over Beethoven, I didn't know until the Beatles did it, or Honey Don't, or stuff like that. I didn't know, and then I went back and listened to it and had to compare. So
yeah,
I get that. I mean, you knew the cover before.
I knew the cover, and then the Beatles did it, and it's not that they're bad. It's just you have to make a choice. That's all.
Right. Well, I guess that jumps us into top 10.
Yes.
Number 10 is another Lennon McCartney song. It's the second track, Misery. Kind of a neat little opener with, the world is treating me bad, misery, don't. It's great. Like that guitar just sounds great. I guess it's got some tremolo in it. I'm the kind of guy. It's a fun little pop song. I can imagine them doing it in the cavern and probably having a little bit more grit behind it than the studio version, because again, this was all recorded in a day, 18 hours or whatever it was. And I'm sure that when they did it live, it got some great applause. McCartney has some great kind of Everly style harmony on the back side of things, and I really like it. I think I always associate it. It's one of those songs that I think of as soon as I hear the opening track. I know like misery's coming. Even like if
Yeah,
I'm listening to like the first song is I Saw Her Standing There. Whenever I hear that song, I immediately think, all right, misery's coming next. Like if I hear it like on Beatles radio or something like that.
yes.
So
And it works
but
well. It works well in tandem with I Saw Her Standing There too, I think.
it does. And yeah, it squeezed into the top 10.
Yeah, it's in my top 10 too. My number 10 is Anna Go to Him, which you had earlier. Yeah, basically a brokenhearted guy asking and begging, pleading for another shot. You know, and then I Will Set You Free, Go to Him. That's the end result. Give back your ring until she's gone forever. Kind of a sad song. I don't mind it. And I can see I think John's vocals okay in it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still filler. It's not a classic Beatles song that you're gonna
Right.
be
I
drawn to
agree.
immediately. I mean, they stuffed the album. There's 14 songs on the album, and maybe for me, 8 work and 6 don't.
Right. If you were like, if the Beatles had ever, if the Beatles had played from, if they had never broken up, if they never played most of these songs, you wouldn't
Right.
hurt.
Right.
If they're playing these songs in the 90s, you don't need to hear Anna Go to Him.
No, but it's
you
still
know,
cool to go back and know it's there, to listen to it and say, yeah, it's okay. It's
it
Beatles.
is.
And I feel that way about a lot of these early tunes. Anna, even Chains, which I put at number 11. I like hearing it. It's just, not going to make, it's not the cream of the crop. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Number 9 is probably going to be, this is probably the biggest shock on the album for me in terms of where I'm placing this song. And it's listed on the title, Love Me Do. That's my number 9. I first heard the song when the Beatles One Greatest Hits compilation came out in 1999, I think, and I had it on cassette, and I remember loving it. And of course, there were a couple different versions. There's a couple with Pete Best, there's Ringo Starr, and then there was a session guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but again, it's a killer song. I love the harmonica. When I first started learning how to play harmonica, this is one of those songs where I was playing guitar and trying to get the harmonica part down. And I know McCartney always talked about it was kind of like the first time when they recorded that he had a solo vocal without any kind of background, where he sings "Love Me Do," and he had that quiver in his voice, and he says he still kind of cringes when he hears that, because he was so young and nervous in this nice clean studio, and they weren't recording it in their bedroom on a tape player or whatever technology they had at the time. But yeah, and again, it's probably one of those, it was a number 1 hit, but
Yeah.
it might just be oversaturation. And at its core, it's not a very complex song. And yeah, I love it to death. I mean, it's very wholesome, and it epitomizes early Beatles to me. But yeah, it was number 9 for me this time around.
Yeah, I have it a couple notches above that, but still, I see exactly where you're coming from. My number 7, or excuse me, my number 9 is Baby It's You, the cover of the Shirelles. It's a decent cover, but to me, it pales in comparison to the Shirelles. I always love the Shirelles song. I have to put it in the middle of the pack here. John on lead vocal. He does a good job. I don't, I can't quibble with it. It's just, again, I have a tendency to compare these Beatles covers to the originals, and for the most part, they come up a little short. I mean, I hate to say that because it's the Beatles, but this is early Beatles. They're still finding their way. They're in their early 20s. They're drawing on their influences, and they're picking good material out, and it's hard to replicate that sometimes,
Right.
or even surpass it. They do on a couple, but we haven't hit them yet.
Yeah. Yeah, you can really tell their youth. I mean, I think even George, I don't think he's even 20 yet. I think he's 19.
Right. I mean,
they're
babies.
They're babies. They've got a lot of road experience. Playing in Liverpool and Hamburg and all over Europe. But they were playing clubs. They weren't playing Shea Stadium yet. So,
exactly.
Yeah, all right. So you mentioned this song earlier, number 8. It's the Ringo track, Boys. Again, it's kind of a weird cover to do. I've seen Ringo play live. I've seen him once, and he did the song, and it's great to hear him. And I always think about him, like the live footage of him like at Shea Stadium, just really doing his head, the classic Ringo, the bowl cut kind of, flinging around. But I actually prefer the song live, actually on the 8 Days a Week soundtrack that came out from the Ron Howard film. It's the Hollywood Bowl concert, and I much prefer that version to the studio version. But it's great. He's like rock on, and
Yeah.
it's a good song. But again, it is kind of interesting that they picked that one. It must have just been one that they really liked and just felt like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Which in a way it was kind of ahead of its time. But yeah, it's not my favorite, but I know I love Ringo, and I love that he still does it in his 80s.
Unbelievable. Yeah, he's still going strong. My number 8 is one you had earlier. This is a song I really like. From here on up, I like these tunes a lot. Misery. You got Paul and John, I guess, trading the harmonies here. It's beautiful. The guy getting dumped and self-wallowing about a girl. The world is treating me bad. I'm the guy. I love that. They harmonize beautifully together. It works for me. And like you said, it's a good number 2 track after the opener. I saw her standing there, and it's coming. If you're familiar with these albums and you've heard them enough, soon as the end of I saw her standing there happens, what's coming next. And I like it. It's always been a favorite of mine. I know people can take or leave it, but I like it. Like it a lot.
And to add on to that song, I was thinking also, I forgot, during the fade out, they're kind of like, kind of just messing around like la 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 la.
Yeah.
Misery. Like they go.
I like that part too. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, so it's a neat little fade out with that song. So I agree. Number 7, you mentioned it earlier. I love Paul's vocals on this. It's A Taste of Honey.
Okay.
I love how he does it. Just the last note, and you burn down, bling. I love it most, I think, because of Paul's vocals. And Paul is so young. I mean, he's 20, 21-ish right here, and his voice is already kind of seasoned in. Like he's probably gotten his nerves out, and I think it's a fantastic cover. It's one of my favorite Beatles covers. If we were to do a list of top Beatles covers, I mean, this would probably make top 20. So I love it. And you mentioned Herb Alpert earlier. Of course, it's his, it's kind of like his theme song, but the Beatles, they're nothing to slouch at with it. Completely different arrangement too.
It is. It's a completely different arrangement. I like I can still hear that Herb Alpert. I played the Herb Alpert version earlier today just to contrast them. And it starts out, it's kind of cool.
And then that count in, the doom, 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 with the drums.
Right. Yeah. Yep. All right. My number 7 is one that you had earlier, kind of a Beatles staple, but it had to fall somewhere. Love Me Do. It's an infectious pop song. It's got the harmonica, which always scores points with me. The early Beatles. I like the sharing vocals too between the two of them. It's just a staple of their early work. Number 1 song, the whole 9 yards. Love it. But it falls into, not that it's on this album, but it falls into the line of She Loves You and I Want to Hold Your Hand, as far as, great Beatles early songs that I've heard a million times, and they fall under the radar now because there's other material that maybe is not as famous, but I like better. Right.
I agree. But it's one that I would want to hear if they were, if they had played through the 90s. That's one that I would have loved to have heard live, with John playing.
The harmonica, sure. Yeah.
Number 6, I think this is the first George Harrison vocal I have on here. Number 6, Do You Want to Know a Secret? It's it's one of those standard George songs, early George songs. It's a McCartney. It's funny on this album, the way that they have the songwriting credits listed. It's listed as McCartney, Lennon on all of the songs before they went alphabetical later on. But I love that guitar. The never know how much I really love you. Kind of like a chord for each. Just they hold the chord for the line, and then just he kind of goes into you'll never know how much I really care, and then I love that chord where they go down the neck. again, I was, I guess a third generation Beatles fan, if you can say that.
Yeah.
So I first heard the song when the Beatles Rock Band game came out, which was around the time that they were re-releasing all these albums around 2009. And I thought that was so cool because like in the video game for those early songs, it's the Beatles in the Cavern Club, with their shirts and ties but no jackets. And I always associate that song with that game and like seeing the animation on that. But it's a fantastic George vocal. It's a great song. It's really, I love the electric guitar. Really makes that song.
Yep, I have it pretty high as well. My number 6 is "There's a Place." You mentioned that earlier. This is probably my nominee for the most underrated song on this album because nobody ever talks about it. It's got harmonies galore. It's got the harmonica. The lyrics are cool. It's relatable because everybody's looking for that place to get away from maybe the loneliness and the blues. Sometime there's a place where I can go where I feel low and I feel blue. I just like it, and it goes back to my childhood, so it scores points there too. Number 6.
Top 5 time. Number 5, and I don't think you've mentioned this one yet either. A Lennon McCartney song, "P.S. I Love You," which that title has been used a few other times in some of the old standards in the 40s. Of course, the theme is, they're writing a letter and that's the last line of the letter, "P.S. I love you." But again, the vocals of Paul are just fantastic, especially toward the end where he's kind of like ad-libbing, where he's like, I want you to remember.
Yeah, that's the best, man.
And it's like his voice just goes like to like another level with kind of got some rasp in there. Great harmonies. And I know I think this is one of those where he kind of tried to redo on "Give My Regard to Broad Street," and it was just absolutely miserable. Back in the late 80s, and he was doing it on that tour that he did when he was bringing back Beatles songs into his catalog, and that was a terrible version. But this is the version. This is the standard, and I've always loved it. I love that ending with Paul's ad-libbing over top of the vocals.
Yeah, it's cool as hell. I have it number 5 also. We hit on that one. Right on the money. I love it. P.S. It's a short, sweet, there's not much to it, but the letter theme works perfectly. Everybody can relate to that. And he's telling you basically, as I write this letter, send my love to you. I want you to remember, just a great song. Melodic, innocent, heartfelt feelings, and it's a sing-along song. You can't help but sing along with that.
For sure. Yeah.
So, number 5.
Number 4, you mentioned it a while ago. "Chains," another George Harrison vocal. I love this song. Of course, I knew this one before the Cookies version.
Yeah.
George's accent is so strong in this one. You can tell he's young. I love the harmony in it. Just again, I think it's the accent that does it for me in that song because it's so Liverpool, and you can tell that he just sounds like some kid that they pulled in and said, "Hey, we need you to sing this song," and they knew him, growing up around the docks in Liverpool. But the "Please remember when I tell you," it's just I've always loved this song, and it's one of those that I always hum when I'm listening to this album. So that's number 4.
My number 4 is one you had a few back. "Do You Want to Know a Secret?" Again, written by John and Paul, but they thought it was best suited for George. Great vocal, I think. And I've always loved this from when I was a kid too. And the beginning, "You'll never know how much I really love you," and that much I care. "Let Me Whisper in Your Ear," all that stuff. And "Say the Words You Long to Hear," and then "I'm in love with you." Woo. They get that woo woo in there.
Yeah.
Again, it's a classic early Beatles song, a sing-along song, which I'm partial to in those early Beatle days. The ones that are the most sing-along and harmonic are the ones I like the best.
Yeah, and they weren't progressive. I mean, they weren't progressive at this point. So I mean,
no,
you heard early Beatles stuff. I mean, you had other groups like the Hollies and the Pacemakers. the Playboys and stuff like that were coming up around those times. But there wasn't like anything out of this group that you were just like, whoa, that's this killer,
Music
monumental thing.
That hadn't really happened in music yet. There would, the British invasion, it was a landmark time, but you have to remember, after the original pioneer guys were dying off, or not dying off, but their music was losing popularity. Elvis and Little Richard and Chuck Berry, they all had issues. Then you had that middle ground in the early 60s where it was boy groups or teen idols and doo-wop, and Motown was in its infancy. And here comes the Beatles. It was fresh material, but it wasn't progressive, like you say. They were in their early time of developing this style. And 3 years later, it's a completely different sound. So they had to take baby steps to get there. Let's face it.
And that's another thing to keep in mind between this album and 3 years gone by. That's Revolver.
So. Exactly. And then we're talking progressive, and then we're talking influential, and everybody's jumping on that bandwagon with the Indian music and the psychedelia, and then
right.
It just completely changed. It was a growth period for music, and the Beatles were at the forefront of it.
They were.
So what are we at?
We are at number 3, top 3. And I apologize, I'm facing west.
That's
my
okay.
son is coming through, so I'm going to I'm recording later on. I'm going to adjust this as necessary. Right. So I apologize for the lighting. Number 3, again, these top 3, these jump around all the time. Twist and Shout. It's one of those covers that it's the Beatles song. And of course, it was redone in the 80s. It was given new life with Ferris Bueller's Day Off in the 80s. And like the big parade scene.
Yes.
And just a killer vocal from John. I think it was the last song that they recorded that day, because they knew it was just going to shred his voice. And it was always one of those songs that they were sang toward the end of their concerts too. Although a lot of times during the concerts, they would open with that and kind of like an abridged version of it, because they didn't want John to have laryngitis after 10 minutes of the concert.
Yeah.
But everybody knows the song. It's a staple at weddings and high school dances, whatever you want to listen to a fun dance song. It's like Shout or any of those songs that you hear everywhere. It's all over the place, and a lot of people don't know that it's not a Beatles song because it's so associated with them. But John, probably maybe my favorite John vocal of the Beatles' whole career.
Wow.
And it's a pure rock and roll moment for the Beatles, and kind of one of those. For one thing, it's a perfect album ender. It ends the album perfectly, and like I said, they recorded it last, so they're like, let's just throw it to the end, because John giving everything he's got before he goes to bed, at 3 a.m. So I love it. It's a killer track.
Couldn't agree more. It's my number 3 as well. I talked about covers before and comparing. Well, this is one that's in the Beatles' favor. This is a better version than the Isley Brothers, who had the hit with it. Love it. You did all the justice to John's voice here. He's basically in shreds at the end, leaving nothing on the table, just airing it out, man. And it's a classic song. I like the reference to Ferris Bueller too as well.
Yeah,
good stuff. So it had to be in my top 3. Looks like we have the top 2 the same. It's just a matter of what order they're going to be in here.
Yeah, our top 3 were the same.
Actually,
yeah. So well, I'm gonna go with the album's title, Please Please Me. Again, another killer harmonica, which I'm sure you love about it as well.
Love it.
It matches the melody with like the guitars, that opening kind of the boom from Ringo, and then wah 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 wah.
Yeah.
And then that perfect, double lead vocal with John and Paul, and then the call and response of, come on. Just, I love it. I love it. And I'm surprised it wasn't a number 1 hit for them.
Yeah.
But I think actually that was the song I think that was the song where they recorded it, and George Martin said, "You have your first, top 10 song with that one." And sure enough, it was in the top 10. And I think that's when George Martin realized, like, hey, these guys, I can do something with them, because they wrote the song. It sounds like it belongs on the radio.
Yeah.
And I think this is another one of those songs that Paul McCartney kind of redid on the "Give My Regard to Broad Street" album. I'm not 100% sure on that, because I'm not as familiar with the Beatles solo catalog. But again, it's one I would love to go to a Paul McCartney show and he does this song live. I would love to see that.
Yeah, it's my number 2 also. Everything you mentioned, the harmonica, the great bass line, and the harmonies. Oh my God, the harmonies. That's the thing that takes it over the top. I love the "Come On, Come On." Originally, I read that John wrote this as a stripped down blues kind of number, and then they got in the studio and they amped it up a bit. So great job. I love "Please Please Me." It almost made my number 1. Came up a little bit short.
Yeah, it's a killer track. I'm gonna move.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna move just for a minute so that my face isn't, completely.
You were getting dark there a little bit, and
it was getting dark. So it's not. Trust me, I paid my electric bill. So it's still. It will be gone in 2 minutes. All right, so that moves me to number 1, and we both have the same one, so we can kind of, I guess, go back and forth on this.
Yeah.
Rich and I both have "I Saw Her Standing There." Number 1, again, just a killer track.
Yeah.
A perfect opening track to the Beatles' career.
I know.
And I always think it's kind of neat that I always talk about it when my favorite Beatle is Paul McCartney, and I love the fact that Paul opened the Beatles' career and he closed it on Abbey Road with with the end and Her Majesty. But technically, like, the Golden Slumbers portion of Abbey Road is all Paul. And he opens the Beatles catalog with "I Saw Her Standing There" with that count in, which is just,
that's the best.
Killer. And it's been done. It's one of those songs that they jam with it at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I know he's done it. I think he's done it with Springsteen. He's done it with everybody, and everybody wants to do that count in, the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then bow out. It's just it encapsulates the early Beatles. Not quite Beatlemania, because they haven't been really discovered, so to speak, in America. But
right.
It's a perfect opener to their career. I love it.
Their first album and a career. Unbelievable song. I can't add much to it. I love the 1, 2, 3, 4 too. And I like the part at the end. How could I dance with another? How can you stop from going, woo? When it's just contagious.
Yeah.
I was at a 50th birthday party, and the DJ played that the other night, Saturday night. They were taking requests, and it came on. Somebody requested it. And as soon as that woo comes on, everybody's yelling, that's just automatic.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Number 1 for me. I don't care if it's cliche. I don't care if it's predictable. It's the best song on the album for me.
And, not unfortunately, but, we didn't have a variety for our top 3. They're exactly the same, but it just shows how strong those songs are.
I know we hit on 1, 2, 3, and I think 5. P.S. I love
number
5.
That says a lot.
Pretty good. And the ones we disagreed the most on, you like "A Taste of Honey" and "Chains" a bit more than I, and Boys. And I kind of like "There's a Place" a little bit more than you, and maybe "Baby It's You."
Yeah.
But pretty close. Excellent, really.
Yeah. Good list.
Great list. So Sam and I are going to come back and do each album in consecutive order, from the beginning. The next one up, of course, will be with the Beatles. And in the meantime, leave your comments. Leave us your top songs. I don't care if it's in order or top 5, top 1, whatever you want to do. Let's have some correspondence. Leave us some of your favorites. What do we overrate? What do we underrate? All that kind of good stuff to talk about in the comments. Check out Sam St. John. Definitely subscribe to this guy's channel. We want to get him up to 300 next level up, and then we'll go from there. So for Sam St. John, Rich Strickler here. We'll see you in the next video. Take care, everybody. Peace.
Cheers.